I was helping a customer when my husband texted, "I'm leaving you. I emptied our account. Have fun with your pathetic life." Little did he know, I'd already learned about his affair, his secret bonus, and his flight details. Sarah thought she had the perfect marriage, until that fateful Tuesday. Her husband of 12 years had emptied their joint account with their $15,000 vacation savings while on a business trip that was actually a rendezvous with his mistress. But Sarah wasn't as naive as he believed. What happened next would change everything. Not just for her, but for the man who thought he could simply walk away with her dreams and dignity. When Sarah's phone buzzed during her shift at the bank, she never expected it would be the message that would shatter her world. She'd been helping an elderly couple with their retirement planning when her husband Mark's text arrived cold, cruel, and calculated. "I'm leaving you. I emptied our account. Have fun." Just like that, 12 years of marriage reduced to a few heartless words while she was in the middle of her workday. The timing wasn't an accident. He knew she couldn't react properly while at work. Sarah stood there, her professional smile frozen on her face, as she excused herself to the break room for just a moment. Her hands trembled as she checked their joint account on her banking app. And sure enough, the $15,000 they'd saved for their dream vacation to celebrate their upcoming anniversary was gone. Every penny they'd put aside over the past 2 years, transferred out that morning when Mark was supposedly at his important conference in Chicago. The conference she'd helped him pack for, making his favorite sandwiches for the flight. What Mark didn't know was that Sarah had seen the signs for months. The late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the sudden password changes on his devices. She worked at a bank, after all, and noticed patterns in their finances that didn't add up. Small withdrawals at places he'd never mentioned visiting. Hotel charges in towns he wasn't supposed to be in. She'd started documenting everything, not because she wanted to believe it, but because her instincts told her something wasn't right. Those instincts had never failed her before. And there was something else Mark didn't know. Something that would turn his perfect getaway plan into his biggest regret. 3 days earlier, Sarah had discovered an email confirmation about his annual bonus. A substantial $42,000 that had been deposited into his personal account. The account he thought she didn't know about. The account where he kept his just-for-me money, as she'd overheard him calling it once on the phone. But how could Mark have forgotten who set up his email account years ago? Who helped him with his forgotten password requests whenever he locked himself out? What hurt more than the missing money was the realization that this had been planned for months. As Sarah sat in her car during lunch break, she scrolled through old text messages, looking for clues she might have missed. That's when she found it, a conversation with his colleague Jake about the plan, and finally being free. They had talked about beaches in Mexico, and starting fresh where nobody knows your name. Her husband hadn't just stolen their money. He had methodically planned his escape from their life together, as if it were a prison break. Sarah remembered the night 3 months ago, when Mark had insisted they update their banking information. "It's more secure this way," he'd said, showing her how to set up the new joint account. What he hadn't mentioned was that he'd arranged for his paychecks to go to his private account, leaving only a portion deposited into their joint funds. Just enough to avoid suspicion, just enough to make her think everything was normal. He'd been siphoning money away gradually, preparing for this moment while sleeping beside her each night. The pieces started falling into place as Sarah thought about the woman who'd called their home last month, quickly hanging up when she answered. The unfamiliar perfume she detected on his shirts occasionally. The sudden gym membership that explained why he came home showered some evenings. Mark wasn't just leaving. He was leaving for someone else. Someone he'd been building a parallel life with while dismantling the one he shared with Sarah. The betrayal wasn't just financial. It was a complete erasure of their shared reality. As the shock began to wear off, something else stirred within Sarah, a calm, collected anger that surprised even her. She was a financial advisor at one of the city's top banks. She helped people protect their assets, plan their futures, and yes, sometimes navigate financial disputes during divorces. She knew exactly what Mark had done, and more importantly, she knew exactly what she could legally do about it. The question wasn't whether she could fight back. It was how strategic she wanted to be about it. And as she dried her tears, Sarah realized she had more resources at her disposal than Mark had accounted for. Sarah didn't rush home in a panic as Mark might have expected. Instead, she finished her workday with remarkable composure, helping clients and processing transactions as if her world hadn't just imploded. Her colleagues noticed nothing amiss, which was exactly how she wanted it. The first rule of strategic response was to never let your opponent know you're planning a countermove. Inside, her mind was racing, formulating a plan that would require precision timing and complete emotional control. She'd learned from handling high-net-worth clients that panic was the enemy of good financial decisions. That evening, Sarah called her sister Kate, a corporate attorney who specialized in fraud cases. "Don't touch anything in the house," Kate advised after hearing the situation. "Document everything. Take photos of all shared possessions. Forward and save all communications from him. And whatever you do, don't let him know that you're aware of the personal account." Sarah followed these instructions methodically, photographing every room, creating spreadsheets of their assets, and gathering financial documents she'd need. Mark had underestimated her organizational skills, a mistake he'd soon regret. While cataloging their possessions, Sarah found a crumpled boarding pass in Mark's home office wastepaper basket. It wasn't for Chicago as he'd claimed. It was for Cancun, Mexico, dated for the previous day. A quick search of their shared cloud account, which Mark had apparently forgotten about, revealed hotel reservations for two at a luxury resort for 14 nights. The reservation wasn't just in Mark's name. It included a woman named Veronica Jensen. A social media search showed a beautiful blonde who worked at Mark's company in the marketing department. 26 years old to Sarah's 41. With trembling fingers but resolute determination, Sarah logged into their phone carrier account and downloaded Mark's call history for the past 6 months. The pattern was undeniable. Daily calls to the same number, often late at night or during his overtime hours. Using her banking contacts, Sarah was able to trace the mysterious withdrawals to restaurants and jewelry stores. One charge was from an upscale jewelry boutique known for their engagement rings. The reality hit her like a physical blow. Mark wasn't just leaving her. He was preparing to replace her completely, using their joint savings to fund his new life with a younger woman. The next morning, Sarah took a personal day and met with Kate and her colleague Rajiv, who specialized in matrimonial law. "What he's done is called financial abandonment and marital asset dissipation," Rajiv explained as they sat in his office overlooking the city, where Sarah had built her life with Mark. "Courts take a very dim view of spouses who empty joint accounts, especially when it can be proven that the money was taken for non-marital purposes." Sarah listened intently, her banker's mind calculating odds and outcomes as Rajiv outlined their potential strategies. "But here's where timing becomes critical," Kate interjected, sliding a document across the table. "Massachusetts is an equitable distribution state. That means all marital assets, including that bonus he received during your marriage, are subject to division. But we need to act before he moves the money offshore or converts it to cash." Sarah stared at the emergency court order in front of her, a temporary freeze that could be placed on Mark's accounts if they acted quickly. The legal system offered protection, but only if she moved faster than Mark expected her to. What surprised the attorneys was Sarah's composure and the detailed financial documentation she had already prepared. "Most clients come in completely overwhelmed," Rajiv remarked, reviewing her spreadsheets. "You've done half our job already." Sarah explained how her position at the bank had trained her to recognize financial irregularities, how she'd been quietly documenting discrepancies for months without confronting Mark. "I didn't want to believe what the numbers were telling me," she admitted. "But numbers don't lie, even when people you love do." As they developed their strategy, Sarah mentioned something that made both attorneys pause. "Mark has an automatic transfer set up for his business travel expenses. His company deposits funds directly into his personal account before trips and reconciles afterwards." She pulled up an email confirmation she'd found. According to this, they've just deposited $8,500 for his supposed Chicago conference expenses. Kate leaned forward, her expression suddenly intense. That's company money given for a specific business purpose. If he's using it for personal travel with his girlfriend. She didn't need to finish the sentence. They all understood the implications. This wasn't just marital fraud. It potentially involved corporate fraud as well. When Sarah returned home, she faced the empty house with new perspective. This wasn't just the scene of her betrayal. It was the command center for her response. She set up her laptop at the kitchen table where they'd shared thousands of meals and began methodically tracing Mark's digital footprints. Her IT friend from the bank had shown her how to access their router history, revealing a pattern of late-night activity from Mark's devices. Searches for uncontested divorce, hiding assets from spouse, and most tellingly, starting new life in Mexico. What Mark had failed to understand about their digital lives was how interconnected everything had become over 12 years of marriage. Their smart home system kept location data showing when he'd been home and when he hadn't. Their shared Amazon account showed suspicious purchases, a new wardrobe in a size that wasn't hers, beach accessories, and Spanish language learning books. Their Netflix viewing history showed romantic movies watched during times she'd been working late. Each digital breadcrumb reinforced what she already knew and strengthened her legal position. The most valuable discovery came from their shared cloud storage, which automatically backed up their devices. Mark had apparently forgotten this feature existed when he'd used his tablet to research international banking in Mexico. Sarah found documents he'd created outlining how to transfer funds to Mexican banks, applications for opening accounts there, and even a draft of a resignation letter to his company. He'd planned to disappear completely, resign by email once safely in Mexico with their money and his young girlfriend. The level of calculation was breathtaking. Perhaps the most painful discovery was a folder of photos, Mark and Veronica together at a cabin retreat 3 months ago. On a weekend when he'd told Sarah he was on a fishing trip with colleagues. Their smiling faces, the intimate poses, the champagne glasses raised in celebration, all while Sarah had been working overtime to contribute to their vacation fund. But among these painful images, Sarah found something unexpectedly valuable. Screenshots Veronica had sent Mark of her booking their Cancun flights, using Mark's corporate travel account. This wasn't just personal betrayal, it was corporate theft. And Sarah now held the evidence in her hands. Through her banking connections, Sarah confirmed that Mark's personal account was indeed flush with both their stolen vacation fund and his company's travel advance. A quick check of his flight information showed he was currently over the Gulf of Mexico, blissfully unaware of what awaited him. Sarah knew she had approximately 3 hours before his plane landed in Cancun, a narrow window of opportunity to act decisively. The freezing order would take days to process through the courts, but Sarah had another option available, one that required courage and split-second timing. As Mark's wife, Sarah was still listed as the emergency contact, an authorized user on his personal account. He had never removed her access, likely assuming she didn't know about this account at all. This oversight was about to become his costliest mistake. With trembling fingers but absolute conviction, Sarah initiated a transfer from Mark's personal account back to their joint account. Not just the stolen vacation fund, but the exact amount of his company's travel advance as well. She left a small balance remaining, knowing that completely emptying the account might trigger automatic fraud alerts. What Mark had failed to consider was that banking systems leave digital fingerprints that can't be erased. Every transaction, every transfer, every withdrawal creates a permanent record in the banking system. Sarah's actions were creating such a record now, but unlike Mark's furtive withdrawals, hers were reclaiming marital assets that had been improperly diverted. She carefully documented each step of the process, knowing this paper trail would be crucial if Mark tried to claim she had acted improperly. The difference was clear. He had taken their shared money for an affair. She was recovering it for their household. As Sarah completed the transaction, she felt no triumph, no vindication, only a profound sadness that their relationship had come to this. The money wasn't really what mattered. It was the betrayal of trust, the elaborate deception, the calculated cruelty of his departure. She wondered what Mark's face would look like when he landed in paradise, and discovered his funds had vanished as quickly as he had planned to vanish from her life. Would he panic? Would he finally realize she wasn't the passive, financially naive woman he apparently thought she was? As she sat in their quiet home, Sarah realized she had one more crucial call to make, to Mark's company. Sarah had always maintained good relationships with people in Mark's office, particularly his administrative assistant Denise, who had become a friend over the years. "Sarah, how are you? How's Mark enjoying Chicago? Those conferences are always so boring for him," Denise said when she answered Sarah's call. The innocence of the question confirmed what Sarah suspected. The entire Chicago trip was fabricated. "Actually, Denise, that's why I'm calling," Sarah replied carefully. "There seems to be some confusion about Mark's travel this week, and I'm concerned about a potential error with company funds." Without revealing the personal betrayal, Sarah explained that there appeared to be some irregularity with Mark's travel expenses and company credit card usage. "I work in banking, as you know, and these kinds of discrepancies raise red flags that should be addressed quickly," she explained. Denise transferred her to Gregory Phillips, the company's financial controller, who listened with increasing concern as Sarah outlined what she had discovered. "We have strict policies about the use of company funds," he said gravely. "If Mark has indeed diverted his travel advance for personal use and falsified his destination, that's a serious violation." What Sarah hadn't expected was how quickly the company would act. Within an hour, she received a call back from Gregory informing her that they had verified Mark's actual location through their travel management system, confirmed the fraudulent use of company funds, and had already sent formal communications to both Mark's corporate email and phone. "We've suspended his access to company accounts and credit cards pending an investigation," Gregory explained. "And I should inform you that if these allegations are confirmed, termination would be the standard procedure for this level of violation." As the afternoon progressed, Sarah's phone remained silent. No furious calls or messages from Mark. She imagined him standing at the resort check-in counter. Corporate cards declined, personal account mysteriously emptied, company emails demanding immediate explanation flooding his inbox. Mark had orchestrated what he thought was a perfect escape, but hadn't counted on Sarah's professional knowledge, her attention to detail, or her quiet determination. The man who thought he could simply walk away with their shared dreams was now facing the consequences of underestimating the woman he had married 12 years ago. When Mark finally called, his voice had none of the confidence from his abandonment text. "What have you done?" he demanded, desperation evident in every syllable. Sarah remained calm, professional, precisely the way she spoke to banking clients facing financial emergencies. "I've protected our marital assets from improper dissipation, Mark. I've also ensured your company is aware of how their travel funds were being used. Everything else is the natural consequence of your own actions." His threats and pleading fell on ears that had already cried their last tears for this relationship. 2 days later, Sarah sat across from her attorney as they finalized divorce papers to be served to Mark upon his return to the country. The terms were fair but firm: division of assets that reflected their contributions, no ongoing financial entanglements, clean break. "He'll fight this," Rajiv warned. Sarah shook her head. "No, he won't. Not after his company finishes their investigation." She was right. Mark's corporate fraud had been thoroughly documented, and the company was pursuing recovery of misappropriated funds. The man who had walked away so confidently now faced potential criminal charges alongside his professional disgrace. Women from Sarah's support group often asked how she managed to stay so composed throughout the ordeal. "I learned something valuable about myself," she would explain. "When Mark took our money and walked away, he thought he was taking my security, my future, my dignity. But those things were never in our bank account. They were in me all along." This realization had transformed Sarah's approach to not just her finances, but her entire life. She had always been skilled at helping others secure their financial futures. Now she applied that same expertise to rebuilding her own. 6 months after that devastating text message, Sarah stood at the entrance to a small beachfront bungalow, not in Cancun, but in a quiet coastal town where she'd always dreamed of living. The down payment had come from her portion of their house sale, a clean investment in her fresh start. As she unlocked the door to her new home, Sarah reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought her here. The vacation fund that Mark had stolen was meant to create memories of their life together. Instead, it had funded her discovery of who she truly was without him. Sometimes betrayal doesn't end your story. It simply reveals which character was the true protagonist all along. Life has a funny way of teaching us who we really are when everything falls apart. Have you ever noticed how the moments that seem designed to break us often reveal our greatest strengths? That text message wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of understanding my own worth. What would you do if someone tried to steal your dreams? Would you crumble? Or would you discover resources within yourself you never knew existed? The truth is, we all have hidden strengths waiting for the right moment to emerge. Sometimes, the people who underestimate us do us the greatest favor by challenging us to rise. Think about the areas in your life where you might be letting someone else control your happiness, your security, or your future. Are you giving away your power without even realizing it? Maybe it's time to reclaim it, just as I reclaimed what was rightfully mine. The most valuable transfer wasn't the money. It was shifting trust from someone who didn't deserve it back to myself. If my story resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might need to hear that betrayal isn't the end of their story. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications for more stories of unexpected resilience and the sweet taste of justice that comes when you refuse to be anyone's victim. Remember, the best revenge isn't just getting even. It's moving forward to a life better than the one they tried to steal from you.